I've always been a trail guy. I grew up in Flagstaff, Arizona, and ever since I was a kid, my parents would take me camping and exploring the desert and surrounding forests. When I moved to Colorado Springs for college, I found a group of friends who were into the same thing. There was Max, my roommate, Rachel, a biology major, and Josh, a quiet guy who was amazing with maps and navigation. In the spring of 2017, we planned a 4-day camping trip deep in a remote part of the San Juan National Forest. We picked a location far from any popular trails, somewhere a professor of Rachel's had recommended for people who wanted to truly disconnect. We had no idea how literal that was going to be. The first day was uneventful. We hiked about 10 kilometers into the woods, set up camp near a creek, and spent the night around a fire. The next morning, we ventured deeper into the forest, following animal trails and using offline GPS. That's when the weird stuff started. First, there was the deer. It seemed normal at first, just standing in the trees. But when Max pointed it out, we all realized it wasn't moving, at all. Just frozen, staring at us. Rachel said it might be sick or scared. But Josh stared at it for a moment and whispered, "That's not a deer." We laughed it off. Josh was always the paranoid one. But when we looked back again, it was gone. No sound of leaves or branches. Just gone, like it had never been there. That night, we camped in a more open clearing. I fell asleep fast, but around 3 a.m., I woke up to a sound that chilled me. Someone was calling my name, but something about the voice was wrong. It was muffled, like it was trying to mimic a human voice. Dave. I thought it was one of my friends messing around, so I grabbed my flashlight and stepped outside, ready to get even. But when I shined the light into the trees, I saw something behind a tree about 50 feet away. It was tall, thin, and something about the way it stood was just off. Like a person trying to move like an animal, or the other way around. When the light hit it, it took a step back, then ran. But not like a person, on all fours, and in a way no human could move. I went back to the tent shaking. The rest of the night was full of strange noises and the constant sense that something was watching us. In the morning, I told the others. Max laughed, but Rachel looked uncomfortable. She said one of her professors, an indigenous elder, had told the class about old legends from the American Southwest. Skinwalkers. Beings that can transform into animals or mimic people, but always with something off, like they were pretending, and not very well. Josh didn't say much. Just, we should leave. But it was only day 2, and none of us wanted to quit yet. So we kept going. Later that afternoon, we found something hanging in a tree, a rabbit carcass, split open in a way none of us had ever seen. Max tried to brush it off as a predator kill, but it didn't look natural. It looked deranged. Like a message. We kept moving anyway. That night, we set up camp in a valley surrounded by thick pines. While Rachel was washing dishes by the creek, she screamed. We ran to her and found footprints, barefoot, human, and large, coming out of the woods, straight to the water. But there were no prints coming from the other side of the creek. It was dry. Like whatever it was had just appeared there. That was enough. We all agreed to leave in the morning. But morning never came. At around 2 a.m., I woke up again. I heard the voice calling me. Dave, help me. It was Rachel's voice this time. But she was asleep just a few feet from me. I looked outside, and saw something standing at the edge of the clearing. It looked human, but impossibly thin. Like its skin was pulled too tight over its bones. And its eyes weren't eyes. Just black, hollow pits. It stared at me. Then slowly turned its head, like an animal trying to understand what I was. And then it spoke again. But now, it used my mom's voice. David, come here, it's okay. I panicked and started yelling. That woke everyone. Max lit an emergency flare and pointed it toward the woods. Whatever it was gone. Rachel was crying. Josh looked like a corpse. We packed everything immediately and started hiking back. Or, we thought we were hiking back. But nothing looked familiar. The compass was spinning. The GPS wouldn't respond. Josh, usually the calmest, looked terrified. He said we were going in circles. Then we saw the carvings, symbols etched into trees. Strange patterns, almost circular. Rachel said they looked like old Navajo symbols, but twisted, distorted. We started running. That's when we heard it, footsteps behind us. Heavy. Following. We ran until the sun came up. Finally, we stumbled onto a dirt road and collapsed there. A forest ranger found us later that morning and took us to a nearby outpost. We gave him a very sanitized version of what happened. He listened silently and said only this: "You should stay away from that part of the forest. There are things out there, even the elders can't explain." Rachel transferred schools that fall. Josh cut off all contact. Max, who always joked about everything, refuses to talk about it. And me? I can't sleep with my windows open anymore. And I've never gone back to the trail alone. The forest holds secrets. Some call your name. Others copy you until they almost sound real. But deep down, you always know. That thing wasn't human. I've always been a hiking guy. I grew up in Flagstaff, Arizona, and ever since I was a kid, my parents used to take me camping and exploring the deserts and forests nearby. When I moved to Colorado Springs for college, I found a group of friends who were also into that lifestyle. Among them were Max, my roommate, Rachel, who was studying biology, and Josh, a quieter guy but amazing with maps and navigation. In the spring of 2017, we planned a 4-day extended camping trip deep in a remote part of the San Juan National Forest. We chose an area far from any known trails, a spot recommended by one of Rachel's professors, who said it was perfect for people who wanted to really disconnect. We had no idea how literal that would become. The first day went smoothly. We hiked about 10 kilometers into the woods, set up camp near a creek, and spent the evening talking around the fire. The next morning, we went deeper into the forest, following animal paths and using offline GPS. That's when we started noticing small strange things. The first was a deer. It looked normal at first, but when Max pointed it out, we all realized it was too still. Like it was frozen. It was watching us, but not blinking or moving. Rachel suggested it might be sick or scared. But Josh, always the quiet one, stared at it for a few seconds and then whispered, "That's not a deer." We laughed, of course. He was always the paranoid one. But when we turned to look again, the animal was gone. No sound of leaves, no branches breaking. Nothing. Like it had never been there. That night, we camped in a more open clearing. We were exhausted and fell asleep quickly. Around 3 a.m., I woke up to a sound that chilled me to the bone. It was like someone calling my name, but wrong. The voice sounded like it was coming from inside the woods, but muffled, like it was trying to imitate a human tone. Dave. I thought it was one of my friends playing a prank, so I stepped out of the tent with a flashlight, ready to get back at them. But when I shined the light around, I saw something behind a tree about 50 feet away. It was tall, thin, and something about the posture was off. Like a human trying to mimic an animal, or maybe the other way around. The thing stepped back when the light hit it, then ran. But not like a man. It ran on all fours, in a completely unnatural way. I went back to the tent shaking. The rest of the night passed slowly, with strange noises in the woods and the constant feeling that something was watching us. The next morning, I told them what I'd seen. Max laughed it off, but Rachel looked uneasy. She mentioned that in one of her classes, a native professor had talked about southwestern legends, specifically skinwalkers, beings that can transform into animals or imitate humans, but always with something off. Like a glitch in the disguise. Josh just said we should leave. But it was only the second of 4 days, and no one wanted to quit early. Against our better judgment, we decided to keep going. That afternoon, we found something hanging from a tree. It was a rabbit carcass, opened in a way none of us had ever seen before. Max said it had to be a predator, but it didn't look natural. It looked placed there, like a warning. Still, we pushed on. On the third night, we set up camp in a valley surrounded by dense pines. While Rachel was washing pans in the creek, she screamed. We ran to her and found footprints, human, barefoot, and large, leading out of the woods toward the water. But the ground was dry. No marks coming from the other side. Like the thing had just appeared. That was enough to make everyone agree we'd leave in the morning. The tension in the group was thick. But we didn't make it to morning. Around 2 a.m., I woke up again to the voice. Dave. Help me. This time it was Rachel's voice. But she was sleeping 2 meters away from me. I looked outside the tent and saw something at the edge of the clearing. It was humanoid, but very thin, like the skin was stretched too tightly over the bones. The eyes weren't eyes. Just black holes. It stared at me, then tilted its head slowly and mechanically, like a curious animal. And then it spoke again, but this time with my mother's voice. David, come here, it's okay. I panicked and started yelling. That woke the others. Max lit up an emergency flare and scanned the forest. The thing was gone. Rachel was crying. Josh was pale as a sheet. We all agreed to leave immediately. We packed everything as fast as we could and started heading back along the trail we came on, or at least we thought we were. But the forest felt different. The compass spun in circles. The GPS was unresponsive. Josh, normally the calm one, said it felt like we were walking in loops. And then we started noticing markings on the trees, strange symbols carved into the bark in circular patterns. Rachel said they looked like distorted Navajo symbols. We started running. That's when we heard footsteps behind us. We ran for hours, until the sun came up. Eventually, we found a dirt road and collapsed there. A forest ranger found us later that morning and took us to the nearest station. We gave him a summarized version of what happened. He listened quietly, then simply said, "You all should avoid that part of the forest. There are things there even the elders can't explain." Rachel transferred to a different college the next semester. Josh cut contact with all of us. Max, who always made jokes, refuses to talk about it to this day. And me. I can't sleep with the windows open anymore. And I've never hiked alone again. The forest keeps secrets. Some of them call us by name. Others imitate us until we believe they're real. But deep down, you always know. That wasn't human. My name is Derek, and what happened to me, Josh, and Emily in a forest deep in Massachusetts should have never happened. We just wanted a quiet weekend away from the city, camping, a few beers, disconnecting from everything. But what we found out there was something no one should ever experience. And I'll try my best to explain. It all started when Josh found a trail called Crowsmere Trail on Reddit. Someone had posted old photos of a collapsed cabin deep in the woods. It looked eerie, yeah, but it also felt like the perfect spot, remote, quiet, and not touristy. Basically, no people around. That's all we wanted. The place was about a 3-hour drive from Boston, close to the Vermont border. We left early Friday morning, fully packed, tents, lanterns, a cooler of beer, and enough gear to last the weekend. Emily was the most excited, she was always taking pictures for her Instagram. Josh was the clown of the group. And I guess I was just the guy who drove and tried to keep us alive. We reached the trailhead around 2 p.m. There was a dirt clearing for parking, and from there, we hiked for almost 2 hours into the woods. The trail was beautiful, dense trees, the earthy smell of wet moss. Eventually, we found a nice open area near a shallow stream. Perfect for setting up camp. By late afternoon, the tents were up, and we had a fire going. We were drinking, laughing, just enjoying being off the grid. Around 9, Emily brought up something she'd read online about the area. She said that back in the 1700s, a woman named Hannah Murrow had been accused of witchcraft after a plague wiped out several children in a nearby village. According to legend, she was burned alive, but her body was never recovered. "She's still out there," Emily said with a grin. "Walking through these woods at night, looking for descendants of those who condemned her." Josh burst out laughing. "Right, and she texts people from beyond the grave too." We joked around for a while, but when night fully set in, the vibe shifted. The wind stopped. Dead still. Even the trees didn't move. And the forest became quiet. Too quiet. No crickets. No night birds. Nothing. Like the woods were holding their breath. Eventually, we called it a night. Josh and I shared a tent. Emily took the other. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to a noise. Whispering. Really low, just outside the tent. I thought it was Josh messing around, but he was out cold next to me. The whispering continued. It sounded like a woman, murmuring something in a language I couldn't understand. Chanting maybe. Then, silence. I lay there, frozen. Listening. Waiting. The next morning, I told them what I heard. Emily looked shaken. Josh joked that I probably heard an owl or something. But when we went to the stream to get water, Emily pointed out footprints in the mud. Barefoot. Thin. Human. Only one set. Going toward our camp. No return trail. We tried to ignore it, pushing through the day with short hikes and photos. But that night, things got worse. After midnight, we heard footsteps outside the tents. Slow. Uneven. Then came the whispers, louder this time. Josh and I grabbed our flashlights and a kitchen knife and stepped outside, yelling, thinking maybe it was another camper messing with us. No response. Emily came out, pale as a ghost. "I saw someone," she said. "Standing behind that tree. A woman. Her face was covered in mud. Her eyes, they were white." Josh tried to make a joke, but it died in his throat. Because we saw it too. In the distance, partially hidden behind a tree, was a figure. Still. Just standing there. We pointed our lights at it, but the figure backed away, slowly. Almost gliding. Until it disappeared into the dark. We packed everything in 10 minutes flat. There was no way we were staying another night. We started heading back with flashlights, but something was wrong. The trail had changed. We walked for what felt like hours, but everything looked the same. Same trees. Same rocks. Same twisted route we'd passed earlier. Somehow, we ended up right back at our original camp. We were stuck. That's when we heard the scream. It wasn't human. It was high-pitched, ragged, like a throat that had been damaged trying to speak. Then we saw fire, just one orange flickering flame floating in the air, moving toward us slowly. Emily started praying. Josh was ghost white. And I just stood there, staring. Then, she stepped into the light. The woman. Wearing rags, hair down to her waist, feet caked in dirt and mud. Her face was badly burned, disfigured, but her eyes were pure white, like glass. She moved slowly, almost like she was floating. And she was whispering, just like before, that same ancient language. Emily dropped to her knees, trembling. Josh grabbed my hand, something I never thought he'd do. The woman raised one bony arm and pointed at Emily. She whispered something louder, and suddenly the flames around us flared, burning brighter. I yanked Emily to her feet. We ran. Behind us, we could hear footsteps. Dozens of them. Like a mob chasing us. The forest echoed with whispering voices coming from every direction. I don't remember how long we ran, but eventually, we saw the lights of the parking lot. It made no sense, we were lost for hours, but somehow, there was the car. We jumped in and drove. Didn't look back once. The whole ride home was silent. A few weeks later, Emily moved to Arizona. She said she'd never step foot in a forest again. Josh started having nightmares, waking up screaming. A year later, he stopped replying to my messages. I haven't seen him since. As for me, I still hear whispers sometimes. At night. When everything is quiet. That same language. And sometimes, when I look out my bedroom window, I think I see something standing by the trees. Watching. Waiting. Maybe old Hannah never wanted us to leave that forest alive.